Hello, NFL fans. So the season starts on this Thursday, September 5th. We have the Packers at the Bears. Should be a good one. Basically, this is going to be a weekly type of thing where I go over every NFL game from the previous week. Obviously, there's no previous games now because it's the preseason, but usually it's going to be a review of last week and then predictions for the upcoming week. So I hope you guys enjoy it. There are a lot of good Giants fans that follow this channel. I want this to be more of an NFL type of thing where we have fans from every team come in here. We can talk smack in the comment section, have fun, and hopefully we have a good community of people that follow these videos for the rest of the year. So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you do, leave a like, let me know in the comments, and let's get into week 1 of NFL action. One more thing before I get started I forgot to mention. If you're only interested in your team or just a few particular games and don't want to sit through the whole thing, I will put the timestamps in the description of each game so you can just click on that and go right to the game you want to watch. So sorry for that interruption, but now back to the games. So as I mentioned earlier, we're starting with the Packers at the Bears. The line right now is -3 Bears. And for those new to the whole lines and stuff like that, the -3 means the Bears are favored by 3. I'm only saying this because literally 2 years ago, I didn't know what it meant either. So I'm not trying to talk down to people. It's pretty weird. It should be +3 would mean it's favored, but it's weird how they do it. -3 means Bears favored by 3 points. And that's the line when I last checked. So these guys face off Thursday night. These guys faced week 1 last year. I believe it was Sunday Night Football, and it was the game where Aaron Rodgers went down with what looked like a really bad leg injury. I believe it was a pretty bad injury, but he played through it. The Bears had a 17-0 lead. Rodgers came back, led them back in the fourth quarter to comeback victory. They had the very long Geronimo Allison catch down the right sideline. I remember the Randall Cobb catch to win the game, so a bunch of cool stuff there. So can the Bears get their revenge? We'll see. What to watch for? So Matt LaFleur, his head coaching debut. How's the play calling look? We saw him as the offensive coordinator for Tennessee last year. They didn't have a great offense, but you know what? When you go from Marcus Mariota to Aaron Rodgers, you should expect different results and much better results. Mitch Trubisky, does he make the year 3 jump? I personally don't believe so. I think we saw the best of Mitch Trubisky last year, and it's probably dumb of me to say that because he's still very young. He could improve, but I don't think he's that great of a quarterback, and it's not me saying the Bears are not a good football team, but I think they're a little limited because of their quarterback. I don't believe Mitch Trubisky's elite by any means. He had a good year last year, but he's more of a system quarterback because Matt Nagy is that good. Aaron Jones' usage, it's a pretty big thing. Mike McCarthy, who was the Packers coach last year, obviously, got fired. He didn't use Aaron Jones very much in a featured back role. Does Matt LaFleur use him differently? He's obviously one of the most talented backs in football. He led the NFL in yards per carry last year, but for some reason, he didn't want to use him in a featured role, which was very confusing. I wasn't a Mike McCarthy guy, and that was part of the reason. I really did not agree with that. We have revenge of the safeties. It's pretty interesting. So Clinton Dix, a longtime Packers safety, is now on the Bears, and Adrian Amos, a longtime Bears safety, is now part of the Packers, one of their big offseason additions. So it's going to be pretty cool to see those guys face off against their former teams. The Packers do have a very improved defense. They added a pair of pass rushers. They drafted Rashawn Gary. They added Adrian Amos. As I said, they have a young defense, a talented defense. It should be a lot better than previous years, and I'm very excited for the Packers. David Montgomery versus Tariq Cohen. I mean, it's not really them versus each other, but who gets more carries? I believe right now it's looking like Montgomery is. We'll see. Tariq Cohen's obviously very talented himself, but I don't know. I think David Montgomery might get more carries in this game. Pick to win for me is Green Bay. I'm going against the spread. Obviously, the Bears are favored in this game, but I'm going with the Packers. I mean, obviously, we can say last year, yeah, the Bears had a really good year last year, but it's a new season. I think the Packers right now, based off the quarterback situation, I think are just a better team. This being in Chicago is pretty sketchy. I'm not too confident in this pick, but you know what? I'm going with the Packers. I could be wrong on this one. Wouldn't shock me if the Bears pulled this one out. It should be a close game. It will be fun, but I do have the Packers winning this one. Next, we have the Ravens at the Dolphins, and obviously the Dolphins complete tank mode, it looks like. I mean, last video I talked about the NFL. I said I'd be very surprised if they traded Laramie Tunsil. What do you know? They traded him the next day. Did not see that one coming. I mean, he's a young left tackle, one of the better up-and-coming ones in the league, and they just shipped him to Houston. I'm big on Houston this year, so seeing them get Tunsil was nice to protect Deshaun Watson. I understand they gave up a lot, but I don't care. I mean, protecting Deshaun Watson has to be their number one priority. The line for this game is pretty interesting. Ravens -7, and if I was a betting man, I might jump all over that because I feel like the Ravens are going to win by more than 7 points. And at the very least, I mean, they should win by 7. I mean, like, that's the very least. I cannot say the Dolphins losing this by like 4 or 3. I mean, I think that the Ravens are so much better. It's kind of weird seeing that. So maybe I bet on this game. I am from New Jersey, so it is legal here. Maybe I do bet on this game. If I see a nice line, I'm going to point it out. I don't want to offer betting advice because I don't want to be in charge of your money. So just saying. So what to watch in this game? How bad are the Dolphins overall? I mean, this could be really, really bad. I mean, I don't know what to expect from this team. Maybe they surprise us. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick did play well last September. Let's remember, as part of the Buccaneers, went into the Saints game. I think they were like a plus 10 in that game, and they actually won the game outright. So who knows what to expect with Ryan Fitzpatrick under center. Anything could happen, but I'm not expecting much. How does Lamar Jackson look? I mean, it's year 2 for him now. He hasn't played a full NFL season yet. He took over like I don't even know when it was, like week 8, 9 last year. So what does he look like in year 2? I think he's going to be very good, obviously. I've said that many times. I think he'll be really good this year. How bad is the Dolphins' offensive line? I mentioned Laramie Tunsil getting traded. And during that last video, I said, yeah, the Dolphins line sucks outside of Tunsil. Well, now Tunsil's gone, so, like, what else do they have? I literally cannot name one guy on that line. If it's good, I'll be shocked, but I'm not expecting that. Which Dolphins receiver is the top target? It's pretty interesting. So they have Devontae Parker, who's there. I mean, kind of a bust at this point in his career, but maybe he could revive his career at this point. I don't know. They have Gesicki at tight end. I mean, maybe he's a year 2 breakout tight end. I don't know. They have Albert Wilson. So, I mean, I don't even know if he's playing. He did have a hip injury, recovering from surgery. I hope he plays. I'm a big Albert Wilson guy, so I think if I had to pick anyone on this team, I would pick him, but depends if he plays, obviously. How does Earl Thomas look? Of course, the safety acquisition in the offseason for the Ravens, signed him as a free agent. Does he still look like that elite safety that we saw in Seattle? I don't know. We'll see. I think he'll be good. I said last video, I think he has a lot left. He's probably like 30, 31 years old. He's not too old. I think he'll be fine. So a nice signing for them. And I do have Baltimore winning. I mean, if you pick Miami in this game, then that's pretty ballsy, but I'm not doing that. I'm going with Miami, or going with Baltimore, of course, and they should win by double digits, I would say. So maybe I do bet this game. We'll see. Next, we have America's team, the Browns. Well, it seems like America's team because everyone's on the Browns bandwagon. We have the Titans at the Browns. The Browns are a -6 favorite in this game. Pretty decent line. I can't really argue with that. So Odell's Browns debut is going to be this Sunday. Exciting stuff. I'm curious to see what he looks like with Baker Mayfield under center. Some people blame Eli Manning for him not being that good last year. I mean, he still had a good season. He had over 1,000 yards in 12 games. So, I mean, I really can't say he had a bad season. But some people expect Odell to have like a magnificent like 1,600 yard and like 15-plus touchdown type season. I mean, I don't know. It's a little crazy. But we'll see how he does in his debut. It's going to be interesting. I feel like he'll be across from Malcolm Butler. And as a Giants fan, I remember Malcolm Butler versus Odell when Butler was on the Patriots. That was one hell of a matchup. Odell beat him on one of the first plays of the game, but after that, Butler locked him up. So we'll see if they have Butler shadow Odell or not. I don't know how the Titans defense is going to play it, but that'll be fun if that's a legit matchup. Statement game for the Titans defense and Mariota. A lot of people are against Marcus Mariota, myself included. I've heard a lot of people say like Ryan Tannehill is going to supplant him at some point this season. It's very possible. And the Titans defense, it could be one of the best ones in football. They have the talent to come out against this team that should have a really good offense and shut them down week 1. That would be a big statement. In Cleveland, too, that would be really good for the Titans defense and let the NFL know, like, hey, we're pretty legit. So if they win this game, that'd be awesome. If their defense comes out and plays well, that's a pretty big statement game for them. Does Derrick Henry play? I mean, he has a bit of an issue. I forget what it is exactly. Maybe a calf issue. I think he'll play. His backup's Deion Lewis, who's still pretty good, so we'll see. But them having Derrick Henry is pretty big for their game plan, so hopefully he plays for their sake. The Tennessee offensive line hold up without Taylor Lewan, and obviously the Browns have a really good defensive line this year. Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon. Those are 3 really good defensive linemen right there. Do they, exploit this offensive line without Taylor Lewan, who's one of the best left tackles in the league? He's serving a 4-game suspension, I believe, so we'll see if they can exploit that. Can the Browns D-line dominate? Exactly what I was just talking about. So they have those 3 amazing guys on that line. I think they're going to have a pretty good game. I mean, the Titans don't throw much. They definitely like to run the ball more or have like a 50-50 split. But if Marcus Mariota drops back to pass like 35, 40 times, it might be a rough game for him. So we'll see. I do have the Browns winning this game. No bold take here. I mean, I think they're going to be fine. It's, it might be a close game. It might be like a low-scoring game. Who knows? I mean, it depends if the Titans defense shows up or not, but I think the Browns will take care of them. I mean, I'm not saying it'll be by 6 points or more, but I do think the Browns will win this game. This next one is a fun game, it looks like. We have the Falcons at the Vikings. That should be a good one. The Vikings are favored by 4. Pretty interesting because as you can see on the bottom, I have the Falcons winning this game. I'll explain why later. So what to watch for in this game? How does this Falcons offensive line hold up? They're playing against a really good defensive line of the Vikings. The game I watched the Falcons play when their ones were on the field in the preseason was the Jets game. Their starting offensive line sucked that game. I mean, I don't think they're that bad. They should be pretty good. They have some good names on our offensive line, so they should be better. But that was a really bad showing for them, but I think they'll be all right. How much better is this Falcons defense now that they're healthy? Of course, they lost a bunch of starters last year, most notably Keanu Neal and Deion Jones in the first 2 games of the season, I think it was, so they were decimated on the defensive end. Do they look better defensively? I mean, they should absolutely look better, but how much better is the question. Can Kirk Cousins beat a good team? That doesn't happen too much. I mean, he doesn't have a good record against 500 or better teams. This Falcons team should be 500 or better, but of course it's week 1, so we don't know that yet. But they are a good team. How does Dirk Koetter look at the Falcons offensive coordinator? They got rid of Steve Sarkisian, who a lot of people did not like. So let's see how Dirk Koetter, the former Bucs coach from last year or last few years, looks calling plays for the Falcons. Sometimes Matt Ryan struggles in his first year with a new offensive coordinator. That'll be interesting. I think he'll be fine, but it is something to take note of. How do the running backs returning from injury look? So, of course, Dalvin Cook struggled with hamstring issues last year. He still played in a decent amount of games, but he was basically dealing with that injury all season. And Devonta Freeman, I think, played in 2 games last year, so we only saw him 1 preseason game, I think it was, and he barely played. So this is the first time we're going to see him since last year. In those 2 games, he looked pretty good, but we'll see if he can stay on the field. I mean, I personally don't expect it. I've said it in fantasy football videos before, but we'll see if Devonta Freeman can prove me wrong and prove some other people wrong if he can stay on the field for all 16. So I do have the Falcons winning this game. I don't trust Kirk Cousins to win this one. It's a big game. I think the Falcons are going to be one of these surprise teams this year. They had an off year last year because they had no one on defense. I think they're going to come out, have a statement game, and take care of the Vikings in week 1 at Minnesota. So we have an AFC East matchup here. We have the Bills at the Jets, a 1 o'clock game. Jets are -3 right now. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. I feel like the Jets are a little bit better, and they have home field. Usually -3 is given to the team that's home, so maybe Vegas thinks that these teams are even right now. I don't know, but I think the Jets are a little better at this moment than the Bills, but we'll see. So what to watch for? The improvement of the year 2 quarterbacks. Of course, Sam Darnold on one side, Josh Allen on the other side. I think Sam Darnold's going to have a better career, but Josh Allen could prove a lot of people wrong. A lot of people think Josh Allen sucks. I don't think that at all. I think he's going to be much better this year than what we saw last year. A lot of the times his receivers drop his passes. He has issues with that. He has better weapons this year. They brought in Cole Beasley, John Brown, Andre Roberts. They have better receivers for him at his disposal. They have a better offensive line, stuff like that. So did the Jets. They have a better offensive line as well. So I mean, these quarterbacks should be better in year 2. If not, then that's a big red flag. But I think right now, coming into the season, Darnold and Allen should look a lot better. Is the Bills' defense elite? They have some good names on that defense. They added Ed Oliver to that defense. They were good last year. They were top 5 in the NFL last year. I think they were second in takeaways. How good are they? Are they elite? We'll see. They can prove themselves. The Jets' offensive line improvements. I talked about it. Kelechi Osemele, a big addition to their left guard spot, I believe, from the Raiders. So I think he'll provide a very stable offensive line for this team. They made some other improvements as well. I think the Jets' offensive line is going to be a lot better. Both defensive lines are good on paper. Which one plays better? It's going to be interesting. As I said, both offensive lines are better, and then both defensive lines are better. So we'll see who wins what. We'll see. New offensive weapons for each team, I should say. I talked about the Bills ones before. Didn't talk about the Jets. They have Jamison Crowder now. Quincy Enunwa comes back from injury. Le'Veon Bell, of course, is there now. So we'll see. Adam Gase making his Jets coaching debut. As I said in my other video, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Adam Gase. He had a very nice record in Miami with a very average at best roster. I don't even think it was that good. He had quarterbacks like Ryan Tannehill, Jay Cutler, Matt Moore. Still went 2 games under 500 in his 3 or 4 years at Miami. I think he'll be fine. I think the Jets fans are going to like him at the end of the year. I have the Jets winning this game. It wouldn't shock me if the Bills won this game, but I do have the Jets winning this game. Sam Darnold's going to be pretty damn good this year, and I think he's going to come out and have a nice week one, get Jets fans very excited. I don't think the Jets make the playoffs this year, but I expect them to go 8-8. So I do have the Jets winning this week one battle against the Bills. So from AFC East battle to NFC East battle, we have the Washington Redskins at Philadelphia Eagles. The line is -10 Eagles. I mean, that's a pretty big line right there. It makes sense to me, though. So it's a 1 o'clock game. What to watch for? Case Keenum's debut as the Washington Redskins quarterback. He was named the starter just a week ago, I believe. He will start against the Eagles. How does he look? We'll see. I don't expect much, but who knows? Who is playing where on Washington's offensive line? So Trent Williams, who I have in the top left here. We don't know if he's going to play. It's not looking like he's going to play. I doubt it. I don't think they're going to get any kind of extension done within the next few days to make him eligible to even play in this game. I wouldn't expect it. If Eric Flowers plays left tackle for this team, they are absolutely screwed. Not going to be good for them against a Philly defensive line that's pretty darn good as well. How elite is Philly's offense? That's going to be interesting. So Carson Wentz needs to stay healthy this year. They have a really good offensive line. They have some decent receivers, really good tight ends on this team. So they should be really good. I mean, who knows? It really depends on Carson Wentz's health. Can Jason Peters at left tackle stay healthy? I think he's 37 now. He's pretty up there, but he still plays at a high level. How does Carson Wentz look entering year 4? As I said, he needs to stay healthy, number 1. But number 2, can he play at that MVP type level that he played at 2 years ago? Of course, he didn't finish the whole season. That's when Nick Foles took over, won the Super Bowl. But before Carson Wentz went down with the ACL injury, he was looking like an MVP. And I do expect him to be kind of near that once again. I think he'll be, as a Giants fan, it's tough to say that, but I think Carson Wentz is going to be very good this year. I think the only thing standing in between him and being one of the top 10 quarterbacks in this league is injuries. So if he's not hurt, I think he'll be fine. Could even be a top 5 quarterback in this league if everything breaks right for him. Does Philly's secondary look any good? That's the one question about this Philly team. I mean, I like them overall. Their secondary right now is pretty weak, so we'll see. I don't think it's going to be a big issue against this Redskins passing game because, who cares? It's Case Keenum. You don't really need a amazing secondary to shut them down right now. But against other teams with good offenses, it might come back to bite them. But right now in week 1, Philly should win this game easily. I think they should win by around 10 points. I like this line a lot. I think it's a fair one. So let's go with the Eagles week 1 over the Redskins. Next, we have the Chiefs at the Jaguars, a game that has the potential to be a really good one. Right now, the line is -4 Chiefs. That's pretty fair. We have an elite offense against an elite defense. Obviously, in 2017, the Jaguars had an amazing defense, the best one in football. Took a bit of a step back last year, but it still was a really good defense last year. Just the offense was really bad, so it just made them look worse. But I still think talent-wise, the Jags defense is ridiculous. They should have another good year. Just an unfortunate week 1 matchup with Andy Reid and the boys coming in to Jacksonville. How does Leonard Fournette look? How does Nick Foles look? That's the big questions for the Jaguars offense right now. They made improvements to this offense. Leonard Fournette was out most of last season. They have a new play caller, John DeFilippo, who I think came from the Vikings offense. Got fired for throwing the ball too much apparently, so that's good for Nick Foles. He'll get to throw the ball a lot with his new offensive coordinator. How does Kansas City rotate their running backs? So that'll be an interesting one. Now they have LaShawn McCoy added to the mix, and I heard Andy Reid's we're going to have a 50-50 split with Damian Williams and LaShawn McCoy. I have no idea. Not good for fantasy football, though, I'll tell you that. Is the Chiefs' defense any better? I mean, that's, who knows? I mean, last year they had a, bottom half defense for sure. I think it might have been bottom 5, actually, based off the numbers. They added Tyrann Mathieu to the secondary. They added Frank Clark to the defensive line, so that'll help. But they also lost Dee Ford, so, I mean, I don't know. But they did lose Eric Berry as well, who wasn't doing much for them. Justin Houston left. That kind of hurts. But, when you have an offense like the Chiefs do, your defense doesn't have to be that great. It just needs to be average. When you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, your defense just has to be good enough. It doesn't have to be elite, just good enough. Who is Jacksonville's top receiving target? We have no idea. I think it'll be D.D. Westbrook. They have tight end Jeff Swaim, who came from the Dallas Cowboys. DJ Chark is there. I think Marquise Lee, if he's healthy. I think Terrell Pryor somewhere there. So I have no idea who steps up for the Jaguars. My guess is D.D. Westbrook. I do have the Chiefs winning this game. Could be a upset alert if the Jaguars defense plays at an elite level once again. If Josh Allen can make an impact in his first game in the NFL, that'll be cool to see. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I do think the Chiefs win this game with their offensive talent. I think their defense will hold up and be good enough. But I think it'll be a close game though. I don't expect the Chiefs to just come in here and blow them out. Should be a close one, but I do have the Chiefs winning it. On to the Rams at Panthers. I'll tell you what, the NFL gave us some good week one matchups, so shout out to them. This should be another good one. So we have a 1 o'clock game at Carolina. Rams -3 favorite on the road. That one makes sense. What to watch is how does Cam Newton look post shoulder surgery from last year? He had an ankle injury, I believe it was, in the preseason. He says he's going to play, so how does he look? He's obviously banged up all the time. But I expect a big year from Cam Newton if he plays all 16 games. It's just a big what if, though. We don't know right now how many games he'll play. Cooper Kupp returning from his ACL injury. Practice reports say he's looking great, so I think he'll be fine. We'll see how much he plays. Is he on a pitch count? I'm not sure yet, but I think he'll be fine. Is the Rams' offensive line still elite? So they lost a couple of guys. Roger Saffold went to the Titans, so that's a big loss for them. But I think their offensive line will still be fine. But how does it look? Is it as elite as it's been in the past? I don't know, but we'll see. But they'll be fine overall. Does the Carolina defense have enough talent to stop this LA Rams offense? And man, that's the big question. So the Carolina defense isn't what it once was, but they still have some pretty good names on that defense. They have Gerald McCoy, Trey Boston's there, Luke Kuechly obviously is still there. They have some guys on that defense. I wouldn't be shocked if they had a good game, but there's not as much talent as there used to be on this Carolina defense, which is not good for them, obviously, but they'll be all right. Is there any type of Super Bowl hangover for the Rams? I mean, obviously, sometimes when teams go to the Super Bowl, this is a perfect example right here. The Panthers of 2016, right after the Super Bowl, had a pretty off year. Believe they missed the playoffs, and it was a pretty just rough year overall for them. Do the Rams have any type of Super Bowl hangover? I don't think so at all. I think they have a lot of guys on the team that are motivated. They have veterans and contract years. I think there are a lot of guys on this team that they have something to play for at least, so I think they'll be fine. Do the Rams veterans defenders, I was talking about the Rams veterans, do their veteran defenders still have it? So, of course, they added Eric Weddle, they added Clay Matthews, they have Aqib Talib still. There's a lot of veteran defenders on this Rams team. Are they still going to play at a high level? If they do, they'll be an elite team once again. But if these guys fall off a cliff, then that can be some trouble for this Rams defense. But I think they'll be fine. I think the Rams start off 1-0. They go into Carolina and win this game pretty comfortably. They'll be fine. I have the Rams winning this game. Next, we have the Colts at the Chargers. Another good game. This line is a -7 Chargers. That really jumped out at me. I would take the Colts all day in that spread. I think, I don't know if the Colts are going to win this game for sure. I did pick them to win this game, but I think they can cover 7 points for sure. Love that line if you're picking on the Colts. What to watch? Jacoby Brissett, obviously. Andrew Luck retired last week. In steps Jacoby Brissett, who obviously signed an extension today as I'm recording this. I glanced at my phone. I think it was 2 years, $30 million, I believe are the numbers. So if I get that wrong, don't hate me, but it was something like that. Did sign an extension. Good for him. I think he'll be better this time around than he was in 2017. I made a video about it, as I said before, so if you want to watch that, go ahead. But I think he'll be fine. How does the Chargers' offensive line look? They might not be fine. Of course, Russell Okung, their left tackle, has a blood clot issue. I think he's out the first 6 weeks now. I hope he's okay, but they're not going to have him on the Chargers' offensive line. Phillip Rivers is not the most mobile quarterback out there, so them not having a good offensive line can definitely hurt. Does the Colts defense get any better? They have a lot of young talent on that defense. It should get better as these guys get older and get more into their prime, so I expect their defense to be better than it was last year. The running backs for the Chargers, how do they look? Of course, Melvin Gordon, not expected to play probably at this point. I'm recording this on a Monday night. Don't think he'll be able to play or probably won't sign the contract to play. And I'm all for what the Chargers are doing right now. I mean, I would not pay him either. I think they're doing just fine with that whole contract issue thing. They'll be fine. It's how does Austin Eckler look? How does Justin Jackson look? How do they play? How do they distribute the snaps and all that kind of stuff? But I think they'll be all right. The Chargers secondary with no Derwin James, that's a big loss. Of course, James had a great rookie season last year. He's out till I think week 8 with a foot injury. He's on IR right now, but eligible to return. But that's a big loss for their secondary. And of course, the Chargers home field advantage because the Chargers, fan base in LA is not that great, much better in San Diego, but, they did not have much of a home field advantage the last couple of years when they were playing in LA, so expect some of the same. I don't really think Colts fans travel that well, but we'll see. I mean, I have no idea what the attendance is going to be like, but I'm just saying it's not going to be much of a home field advantage. And because of that being weighed into it, I do have the Colts winning this game. I think Jacoby Brissett is going to look better than some people expect him to look. He'll be a lot better than 2017's version of Jacoby Brissett when he was just thrusted into the starting lineup 8 days after being traded. So, I think he'll be fine. I have the Colts winning this game. It'll be a close one. I could see the Chargers winning it as well. So I'm going out on a limb here, obviously. It's a -7 Chargers, but I do have the Colts winning. We'll see what happens. Next, we have the Bengals at the Seahawks, a 4:05 game. I think this is the first 4 o'clock one. No, wait, the other one was. Second 4 o'clock one. Seahawks are a -9 in this game, and I agree with it. I think it's going to be a rough game for the Bengals. I'll get into that in a little bit. How does the Bengals offense look? Who knows? They lost 2 offensive linemen before the season started, lost their best wide receiver before the season started. Andy Dalton's he's pretty good, but he's not good enough to just overcome all these injuries and crap like that. I think it'll be a rough go in Seattle for them. Does the Seattle defense look any good? Do they still look good? They still have Bobby Wagner, obviously. He's still there from that core defense they had just a few years ago. But a lot of those guys left. Are they still good enough? I think they'll be all right. I don't think they'll be great. I think they'll be around league average, maybe a little bit lower than that, like 20s area in ranked defense. I don't know. But I think they'll be all right, especially for this game. Is the Bengals' offensive line good enough? I talked about them having the injuries with Jonah Williams. They had one of their best offensive linemen retire in July, so that was pretty abrupt. And they don't have a lot of talent on the offensive line, so I'm not expecting them to do well in that area of the game. Zach Taylor, a head coaching debut for him, part of the Sean McVay coaching tree. How does he look? Maybe his play calling is something we haven't seen before. Who knows? But you never know with new head coach. Anything can happen. First Bengals game without Marvin Lewis since 2002. That guy was employed forever, and it's been since 2002 where the Bengals are without Marvin Lewis coaching a game on their sideline. That's pretty crazy. Does Seattle pass the ball more this year? That's a pretty big question as well. Then Brian Schottenheimer, as their offensive coordinator, still ran the ball a ton last year. And if I had to guess, I think they're going to run the ball a ton in this game as well. I honestly would not be shocked if Chris Carson had 25 carries and his backup Rashad Penny had 15. They're going to run the ball a ton in this game. It's a good game script for running backs in this one. They should have a lead most of the game, Seattle. They might get up to a quick 10-0, 14-0 lead and just run the ball the rest of the game. That's probably what they would do. So I expect a lot of running for them. We'll see. I'd be pretty shocked if the Bengals won this game, honestly, so I'm going with Seattle. The home field definitely plays into it. If it was Seattle at Bengals, I could see them winning the game, but at Seattle, rookie head coach in his first game, going to be tough for him, so I definitely have the Seahawks winning this one pretty comfortably. Up next, we have my New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys, a 4:25 game. The line is the Cowboys -7 right now. I believe that's even with Dak Prescott out of the game, or not Dak Prescott, with Ezekiel Elliott not playing. So what to watch in this game? How does Dak perform without Zeke? Who knows? I think Dak Prescott, not the best quarterback. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Giants fan. I'm just doing it with my eyes. When I watch Dak Prescott, I don't think, oh, that guy's an elite quarterback. That's not what I think. He's an average quarterback. How does he perform without his great running back? Can Tony Pollard carry the load? He's a rookie this year. Seems like they're going to give him a full workload and be the featured back on this team. Kind of interesting. We'll see if that works for them. I think he'll be fine. They have a good enough offensive line for him to succeed. The Giants' offensive line versus Dallas' front seven. Dallas has a scary front seven, but the Giants have an improved offensive line. So who wins that battle? That'll be a fun one to watch. Can the Giants get enough pressure? The Giants don't have an established pass rusher on this team. The most established they have based off stats is probably Marcus Golden, who had a 10-sack season in 2015. But they have a lot of young guys. They need to get pressure. The young guys need to play well on this Giants defense for them to have a chance at winning this game. How does Eli Manning look? He played a little bit in the preseason, not much. Eli in the preseason did look good, had a good amount of velocity on the ball, but Eli's last 2 seasons, or last 3 seasons, two seasons, last 2 seasons in Dallas have not been good, and I don't have good memories about that, so we'll see what he can do in 2019. And Jason Witten's return, he was in the booth last year, now returns to play tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Jason Witten kills the Giants over and over and over again. Does it happen now that he's, a year removed from football? I don't know. We'll see. I do have the Cowboys winning this game. I'm not one of those biased Giant fans. I think the Cowboys will win this game. I mean, the Giants have a shot to come out and shock them, but I do think the Cowboys will win this game. Vegas thinks they'll win by 7. I think it might be a little bit closer than that. I say Cowboys by like 4 or so, but we'll see. I do have the Cowboys winning this game, though. Next, we have the Detroit Lions at the Arizona Cardinals. This should be an interesting matchup. These two teams struggled mightily last year. I believe the Cardinals won 3 games and the Lions won 5 or 6. I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't good. So it's a 425 game. The Lions are favored by 3 on the road at Arizona. Interesting game because it's Cliff Kingsbury's NFL debut as a head coach. Number 1 pick Kyler Murray. We get to see him for a full game instead of just 1 or 2 quarters like the preseason. The Cardinals' offensive line and their young wide receivers, not young offensive line, they're young wide receivers. So their offensive line, they have some veterans there. They have Justin Pugh. They have Marcus Gilbert they just brought over. J.R. Sweezy, I believe, from the Seahawks. I mean, who plays well on this Cardinals offensive line? Can they stay healthy? We'll see. And their young wide receivers, who steps up for them? Is it Christian Kirk, Andy Isabella? They still have Larry Fitzgerald, obviously. Does the Lions offense look any better? I mean, they do have a new offensive coordinator with Darrell Bevell, a big fan of running the ball, so that's good news for Kerryon Johnson, their running back. They have C.J. Anderson to back him up as well, who had a good stretch with the Rams last year. Is the Cardinals' defense awful? I mean, that's a valid question. Their best defender, Patrick Peterson, is suspended the first 6 games, so they're without him. That would have been nice for Kenny Golladay or Marvin Jones. I think Matt Stafford should have a nice game in this one. I think it'll be pretty close. It is -3, so Vegas thinks it'll be close as well. I think the Lions win this one like 17-14 or 20-17-ish. Like it'll be that kind of score. I don't think either team's going to run up the scoreboard or anything like that. It'll be a pretty ugly game, but I think the Lions do win this one, start off 1-0, and the Cardinals, unfortunately, 0-1. The last 4 o'clock game is a 425 one. The San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if it wasn't for the Giants playing at the same time, I would try to watch this whole game. I'm very intrigued with what these teams got going on right now. New head coach for the Buccaneers. I'll get into all that. So the return of Jimmy Garoppolo. Missed a lot of games last year. I believe he missed 12 games. Got injured week 3 against the Chiefs with the ACL injury. Played in the preseason, looked very bad the first game, looked a lot better the second game. I made a video about Garoppolo. I think he'll be fine. A lot of people overreacted about him not playing well. I did have the Niners making the playoffs, I believe, in my other video. No, I had them going 8-8. So I had them, they're going to be good in my opinion, but not good enough to make the playoffs yet. But they're going to get there eventually. I think next year is definitely their year if Garoppolo makes the right strides this year. So the Buccaneers are a -1. I forgot to mention they are favored at home by 1 point. I did pick the Niners to win this game, though. It's Bruce Arians' Bucs coaching debut, as I said. Does Jameis Winston look better than last year? A lot of issues with the turnovers, obviously. But Jameis Winston, kept getting benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick. There was no stability there with Dirk Cutter as their head coach. And, I think now that Jameis Winston has that quarterback job all to himself, it's Blaine Gabbert behind him. There's really no pressure. I don't think Bruce Arians wants to play Blaine Gabbert at any cost. I think this is going to be a good year for Jameis Winston. It's like basically a prove-it year for him. I mean, he needs to prove he's a franchise quarterback, and this is probably his last chance. So the Bucs offensive line against the Niners D-line, that's going to be interesting. The Buccaneers do have some offensive line issues, and the defensive line for the Niners has some really good names on it. DeForest Buckner, they have Nick Bosa, they have, who's the other guy? D4 they just traded for. They have some good names over there on the defensive line, so I think they can definitely disrupt this entire game, make it very tough for Jameis Winston. The running back rotation for both teams, we don't know what's going to happen. It got a little more clear with Jerick McKinnon being put on IR for the Niners. Feel bad for that guy. He signed a big contract. I mean, I don't feel bad in that standpoint, but signed a big contract, a lot of high expectations, has not played a regular season game for the Niners yet, and now I think he's out for the season for the 2nd year in a row. So poor Jerick McKinnon. Hopefully he gets back in his 3rd year on the team, I hope, but we'll see. No guarantees in the NFL, obviously. Tevin Coleman's there. Matt Breida's there. Are they going to split time? That's probably what's going to happen, in my opinion. I actually did trade away Tevin Coleman in one of my fantasy leagues. I'm kind of concerned about him. The running back rotation for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, kind of the same thing. Ronald Jones, Peyton Barber. They have this guy named Dare as a 3rd down back, apparently. We'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting what they do. They cut Andre Ellington, which is interesting because he was with Bruce Arians in Arizona, so that's kind of a surprise cut in my opinion. Who is the Niners' top wide receiver? I mean, this is another thing we have no idea about. There's a bunch of young guys out there. We don't know Dante Pettis, Deebo Samuel. Who knows? We know George Kittle's great, one of the best tight ends in football. he'll get his, and I think he'll have a monster week 1 here. But I think, for receivers, we have no idea what's going to happen. Does the Bucs defense look any better? They added some guys. Of course, their first overall pick, but their first round draft pick, Devin White, a linebacker, improves that defense right there. They added some guys, and Ndamukong Suh is there, I believe. So they do have some names on this defense, and they could be really good. I mean, they do have some injuries. Vita Vea, I believe, might not play week 1. Jason Pierre-Paul is out, so it's going to hurt them a little bit. And I do pick the Niners in this game because I do think their defensive line is going to disrupt this game. I think the Buccaneers' offensive line has some issues, and I do think that they will disrupt the game enough to have a Niners victory. I think Jimmy Garoppolo will be fine against this Buccaneers secondary, which is not that good. Hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo can shut the haters up for a week, so that's why I picked San Fran. On to Sunday Night Football. We have a really good one. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots. 8:20 game, of course. And the Patriots are a -6 right now. I mean, that makes sense. They are home. I thought it'd be a little more, honestly, but the Steelers do have a really good roster, so it doesn't really surprise me too much. The Patriots are kind of known for getting off the slow starts, at least the last few years. It's been a pretty up and down September for the Patriots, but they always catch on at the end of the season and just get hot at the right time. So what to watch for in this game? There's not a ton of things, but we do have the Steelers offense without Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, even Jesse James left as well. So, I mean, can Vance McDonald, Dante Moncrief, James Washington, can they fill the void and become, not those guys, obviously, but be good enough to make this Steelers offense good? Can Juju Smith-Schuster be a wide receiver 1? I'm sure Belichick will do all he can to take him out of the game, so I think it's going to be a lot of Moncrief, a lot of Vance McDonald. Even James Conner at running back has to have a good game. The Steelers have a good offensive line, or a great offensive line, I should say, obviously. I have the Patriots offensive line versus the Steelers pass rush. That should be interesting because the Steelers do have really good pass rushers. TJ Watt, Stephon Tuitt, Cameron Hayward. They have good guys on that defensive line, linebackers that can get to the quarterback, but the Patriots always have a good offensive line, so we'll see what can happen there. That's a fun matchup to watch just outside of the regular game. We have Josh Gordon returning, of course, got reinstated just a few weeks ago from the NFL. He is in line to play this game, be their wide receiver 2 next to Julian Edelman, and I don't even know who else is starting on this team at wide receiver, but it was weird. They cut Demaryius Thomas and then brought him back the next day, so it's kind of weird how NFL rosters work and stuff like that, but they brought him back, so we'll see if he plays. Devin Bush's debut. He was, those Steelers traded up to number 10 overall, I believe it was. Took Devin Bush, looked really good in the preseason. It'll be fun to watch him out there, see how he performs against a team like the Patriots. And then Mike Tomlin against Bill Belichick. I'm not the biggest Mike Tomlin guy. I think he's all right. He's not a great coach in my mind. He's kind of overstayed his welcome a bit. I figured he'd be fired after last year, but he's back again. And against Bill Belichick, the best coach in football right now. So I do have the Patriots winning this game. I think it'll be a good one. There should be a good amount of points in this game, hopefully. But it'll be a fun watch, definitely. That's really all I care about on Sunday Night Football. I'll watch some of my fantasy players, and I just want a good football game. I think that's what we'll get. I think it'll be a fun one on Sunday night, but I do have the Patriots winning and starting 1-0. On to Monday Night Football, and of course, Week 1, there are 2 Monday night games. The first one's at 7:10, a game I'm really excited for. It's the Houston Texans at the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are a -7 right now. Pretty interesting number. I mean, it's fair, I guess. The Saints are home. Very tough to beat at home. So here's what to look out for. Does Drew Brees still have it? I mean, I always mention in previous videos, I mentioned a few times, Drew Brees did not look like the same guy after that Cowboy game on Thursday night, Week 13, I believe it was. Is he still that same guy? I think he will be, but I'm a little concerned. I'm not completely sold on Drew Brees being as good as he's been the last few years, not even a few years, the last decade. But he is 40 years old, so expect some regression, but I think he'll be fine. Can the Texans protect Deshaun Watson? They obviously made the trade for Laramie Tunsil. That's big for them. He should play in this game. I mean, he had he'll probably have 8 or 9 days or 10 days maybe to become familiar with his offense. Playing on Monday helps his case to play in this game, so I think he will. How does Duke Johnson look as a featured running back? Of course, Duke Johnson got traded from the Browns. to the Texans. The Texans lost Lamar Miller in the preseason with an ACL injury. Now it's Duke Johnson. Now it's Carlos Hyde. They have a few other guys I've never heard of behind him, but it should be the Duke Johnson show at running back. So how does he look? I'm happy he gets his opportunity. He was on the Browns depth chart, always behind somebody, so now he gets his shot. Who is the Saints wide receiver 2? We have Traquan Smith. We have Ted Ginn. We know Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are going to get theirs. New running back Latavius Murray. How is he going to play in this Mark Ingram role? We'll see. It'll be interesting to watch. Do Jared Cook and Drew Brees click right away? Of course, the last time the Saints brought in a expensive tight end was Coby Fleener, and he didn't do anything. I mean, he really never had a connection with Drew Brees. Coby Fleener never had any good hands on him, and that's for sure. Jared Cook can definitely drop some passes at times as well, but we'll see. I think Jared Cook could definitely outdo what's his name? I would forget the dude's name. Coby Fleener. He'll outdo what Coby Fleener did, but that's not hard to beat. Can these secondaries keep up with the offenses? I mean, these are some very high-powered offenses, very high-powered passing offenses. To be more specific, can the secondaries of these teams keep up with it? I'm not sure. I expect a high-scoring game, like a 60-point total in this one. I expect the scoreboard to be like in the 30s for both teams, maybe like a 35 to something win. I don't know. I think the Saints are going to win this game ultimately, but it won't be low scoring. I'd be very surprised if it was. I have the Saints winning a high scoring game and starting off 1-0. And last, and possibly least, we have the Broncos at the Raiders. I mean, this isn't as bad as that Detroit and Arizona matchup, but this is, if you don't want to stay up till 10:20 and watch this game, I won't blame you. But if you're on the West Coast, you'll probably be watching. So right now, it's a pick'em. There's no spread on this game. I mean, some people had it as -1 Raiders, but I just put pick'em because that's how DraftKings had it, and that's really what I've been going off of. So it's a pick'em, and I decided to pick the Broncos, but let's get into what to watch for here. So, does year 2 look better for John Gruden? He had a rough year. I think they went 4-12 last year in his first season as the Raiders head coach. Can't get any worse, hopefully, so we'll see. Joe Flacco's Broncos debut. He, of course, was with the Ravens for a long time, makes his debut on a different team. How does he look? Raiders offensive line versus Chubb and Miller. I mean, of course, we have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller against a pretty weak Raiders offensive line. The Raiders offensive line could be good. I mean, they have names on there that I like, but we'll see. I mean, these are some really good pass rushers, and they should take advantage. The Antonio Brown, Josh Jacobs, Tyrell Williams all making their Broncos debuts. How do they look? A lot of eyes will be on Antonio Brown, whether he plays or not. I think he will play, but we'll see. I mean, anything could happen, of course. Does Derek Carr look any better? A rough 2 years for him. I mean, last year, he looks like he was just, did not trust his offensive line at all. He was throwing the ball away early and just was, I don't know, he just didn't look right last year. I hope he looks better for his sake and for Raiders fans' sakes. Phillip Lindsay against Royce Freeman. How do they distribute the running back carries? Who finishes with more work in that game? That'll be interesting. They have a new coaching staff there as well. Vic Fangio, a new head coach for the Broncos. Forgot to mention that. Chad O'Shea, I believe, is their new. No, wait, Chad O'Shea's in Miami. Now I forget who their offense coordinator is, but whatever. You guys can look it up. So, a new offensive coordinator, new coach in Denver. Cleveland Farrell's NFL debut. I mean, how does he look? Let's see if he can make any kind of impact against this Denver offensive line. And please, can we have good announcers? Last year or the last couple years, it's always Rex Ryan and that girl, and I obviously do not like that team whatsoever. I mean, I'm not one of those people that's like, girls shouldn't announce sports or anything like that, because I think there are some really good girl announcers in sports, like the Sunday Night Baseball girl. I think Jessica Mendoza is her name. I like her, but I just wasn't a fan of this girl that was calling the game last year. I believe she called a late Monday night game. So hopefully we have some good announcers this year. We'll see. That'll, of course, do it for this video. This is different than the usual format because there's nothing to reflect on. So, I mean, it'll be different. In the Week 2 video, I'll reflect on Week 1 and then make some quick Week 2 predictions. That's mostly what it will be like. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. Share it with other NFL friends, fans, whoever would enjoy, stuff like that. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next week.